number 3. Now let's talk about the quadrantal angles. I remember distinctly thinking about the quadrantal angles and trying to figure out their values, and some kids seem to be able to memorize them, not me, and they can be memorized by knowing the coordinates of these points in the corners, which is what I do now. But I want to think about the way I thought things when I was young. If we look at the reference triangle for any particular angle, stop anywhere, in the unit circle, the hypotenuse is to be 1, and the side opposite the reference angle is the sine, and the adjacent side is the cosine. Now watch what happens as we take the limit as this angle gets closer and closer to 0. Watch what happens to opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse. I'm going to let this angle go down, 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 closer and closer to 0. And you can see the opposite side is getting closer to 0. And the adjacent side is getting closer to 1. And this is what I actually thought about, and it helped me a lot when I was a girl. I thought about what was happening as this got closer to 0. And I would say to myself, this side gets closer to 0. The adjacent side becomes the same as the hypotenuse. And then I could figure out the trig functions from this triangle, which was really the limiting case. Sine being opposite, if this is my reference triangle, sine is opposite over hypotenuse. The sine of 0 is the opposite, 0 over hypotenuse, 1 or 0. I could see this limiting triangle. When it came to finding the 90 degrees, I did the same thing. Thought about what would happen as this angle gets closer and closer to 90 and its reference triangle. Then I saw that there was the adjacent side that was getting closer to 0, and the hypotenuse was 1, and the opposite was 1, so the sine was 1 over 1. The sine of pi over 2, or 90 degrees, was 1 over 1. When we got to the 180 degrees, I would think about yet a different reference triangle, and I'd see that this side was 1 and this opposite side was 0, but the adjacent side was negative 1. So I could see that the cosine of pi was adjacent negative 1 over 1. Now it's much easier if you just work off the coordinates of the unit circle. And remember that the first coordinate in the ordered pair is the cosine, and the second coordinate is sine. But I think that some students might sometimes forget which one is which. And if you have to, you can rely on thinking about the limit as what's happening with the opposite and adjacent. And this might help you in some cases. Thanks. Bye.